Walters is the place to be this time of year, across the street from Nationals Park and near Audi Field. Open daily from 11 a.m. until 2 a.m., and on the weekends, closing time is at 3 a.m.
I'm excited to tell you about the designs Homage has cooked up for the 2025 MLB season. If you're as baseball obsessed as I am, you'll love the full roster of Major League looks from Homage. Amazing comfort and deep cut designs that help fans show off passion for their favorite teams. Homage has a massive selection that tells the story of the greatest sport from its very beginnings. Deep logo history, coast-to-coast stadium tours, and the biggest players from every era. Legends never die at Homage. If you need your new shirt for going to a ball game, Homage has you covered with its most comfortable fan clothing, and it's available for fans of all ages. This year's collection hits dinger after dinger after tater. Fleece, tees, bottoms, and more. And don't forget to check out the new starter jacket lineup, an iconic dugout look you don't want to miss. Heroes get remembered, but legends never die, and these looks go long, period. Check out the Homage MLB collection to find your team's coolest gear.
Three-two to Dylan Cruz. Iglesias ready, outside target, the pitch. Swinging a ground ball up the middle. It's fielded by Allen. He double clutches, throws to first. It's thrown away. This game's going to be tied. Ruiz scores. Nunez scores. Cruz is aboard. And that's going to be the first error of the season for Nick Allen. And that allows the game to be tied. The Nationals 3 and the Braves 3. The sure-handed Allen double-clutched and threw wildly. And Cruz hustling down the line is safe. The throw gets by. And the Nationals score the tying run like that. And now the 3-2. Slider, ground ball up the middle. It's a base hit into center field. White's coming around third. Cruz double clutches, throws home way too late, and the game is over. Alex Verdugo, the walk-off hit on a fastball, gives the Braves a dramatic 4-3 win.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. Monday night was an awful night for Washington, D.C. sports. We had the Capitals losing at the Carolina Hurricanes 5-2 to go down 3-1 in that best-of-7 second-round series in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We had the Wizards getting jobbed in the 2025 NBA Draft Lottery, a.k.a. the sweepstakes for Duke's Cooper Flag. The Wizards got the worst pick that they could have gotten, the number 6 overall pick. And we had the Nationals losing their 6th consecutive game, a 4-3 walk-off loss at the Atlanta Braves in Game 1 of a 4-game series. Monday night, not so good. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the program. We'd love to have you on board. Contact the man who runs the podcast, Tim Shovers. Again, the email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. So the Nats keep losing. They in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 8 games below 500, 17-25. The Nats on Monday night did rally. They overcame a 3-1 ninth-inning deficit as Braves shortstop Nick Allen committed a 2-out, 2-run throwing error in the top of the ninth on a grounder off the bat of Dylan Cruz. But the Nats in the bottom of the ninth gave up a run as reliever Andrew Chafin, to the only batter he faced, gave up a walk-off, 1-out, full-count RBI single by Alex Verdugo into center field for a 4-3 Nats loss, as Nats manager Davey Martinez went with Chafin and not the team's best reliever, Kyle Finnegan, in that spot. Martinez, during his post-game session with reporters, got asked about this. We will be talking about this. Mark, what did you think about Davey not going to Finnegan?
I get it. I understand why managers, and this is not just Davey Martinez, this is the vast majority of major league managers for years now, don't go to their closer on the road in a tied game. So I get it. But here's the thing I'm thinking, even before that inning begins, I'm not just talking about once runners are on base, but to start that inning, is that Kyle Finnegan hasn't pitched since Tuesday because the Nats had lost 5 in a row and now 6 in a row. And so he is completely fresh. The thought is you don't use your closer on the road there because if you get out of it and you go to extra innings and you take the lead, well, who's going to pitch the bottom of the 10th for you? And it's a valid argument, and especially in a bullpen like the Nats where you just don't have a whole lot of good options to begin with, I get it. But here's the thing, because Finnegan hadn't pitched since Tuesday. If ever there was a night that you could think to yourself, hey, we might get 2 innings out of him and he could pitch the 9th and the 10th, this would be it. So under normal circumstances, I get it. Given the long layoff from him, I kind of felt like this was a time to go ahead and make that move. Now, there's no guarantee that it's going to work out. And truthfully, we'll get into here, my opinion is they did not lose this game because of anybody on the pitching staff. They lost this game because of a complete lack of offense for at least 8 innings. And really, the 9th inning rally wasn't anything that special. It was a little bit better, but not that special. This is right now, the number one issue with the Nationals right now is not the bullpen. It's the lineup. We can get to that. But I think in this case, I would have used Finnegan. I understand the rationale, but because he hadn't been used in so long, I would have been fine with doing it in this case.
The problem with the rationale to me is I feel like with Davey Martinez, he's very rigid with this rationale. And if you listen to how he talked about this during the postgame session with reporters, it was like, well, we just don't do that. You know, we're on the road, tie game. You don't use your closer in the 9th inning in that spot. And it's like, well, there needs to be some flexibility in a situation like this.
We don't go to Finnegan when you're on the road in the 9th inning. Typically you've been like that for years. You don't use your closer. I mean, if we run out of pitching, you have to do it.
Especially when you consider the following. So A, Finnegan's your best reliever, and to save him for a spot that may never come up, I think is always problematic. And sure enough, a spot for Finnegan never came up. But B, and we got into this when Lucas Sims got DFA'd, but if you look at appearances by Nats relievers this regular season, Kyle Finnegan is 5th. He's supposed to be your best reliever. He has been the 5th most used reliever by the Nats in this regular season. Jose A. Ferrer is number 1, Jorge Lopez number 2, Lucas Sims number 3, and Eduardo Salazar number 4. Sims and Lopez are tied. Each guy has 18 appearances. But the top 4 guys are Ferrer, Lopez, Sims, and Salazar, and Sims and Salazar are gone. And yet they have more appearances than Kyle Finnegan. There's something systemically wrong here to where you have your best reliever and you're not deploying him nearly enough. And I think with Davey, he saves Finnegan too often for spots that never come up. So it's fine to have your rules, but I think occasionally you have to deviate from those rules. And it really felt like Monday night was a time at which to deviate from your rules.
It felt like the kind of answer you would have gotten from Matt Williams. And I do not mean that as a compliment to Davey Martinez. Again, the rationale in a vacuum, yes. When you get to this point and he hasn't pitched in so long, I think you bend the rules for a case like that. And understanding that you may be able to get 2 innings out of him anyways. Now, you at the bottom of the lineup, so you're thinking maybe you can get through without it. Maybe you figure Finnegan's the guy for when you get to Riley, Olsen, Ozuna, the heart of the lineup potentially in the 10th inning. So, again, I get that. This happens with closers, though, and it's a problem with just the modern way that the game is played is that, yes, your best reliever ends up very often not pitching as much because you're saving him for such specific spots. And if you have a deep bullpen, it's not a big deal. But we know the Nationals do not have a deep bullpen. They have maybe the least deep bullpen in baseball. And the one guy you've been able to count on all year is Kyle Finnegan. And I mentioned this the other day, I think, and it still holds true. I believe it's still 15 appearances on the season for him. The first one, opening day, tie game, 9th inning at home. That was the difference there. Every other appearance since then has been a save situation. So there has been no bending of the rules other than once or twice where they brought him into the 8th inning, remember, against the Dodgers and tried to get 5 outs from him, that kind of thing. Otherwise, it's entirely 9th inning with a slim lead. Even before this game starts, I remember thinking to myself, we might be getting to a point here where Kyle Finnegan just has to pitch because he needs the work. And that wasn't the situation that arose. It actually was a competitive game, and you still didn't use him. I bet you we see him one way or the other now on Tuesday night. It's kind of a big problem if we don't.
Well, we have had this conversation about Finnegan not being used as often as you would think multiple times over the years. This is not the first time that this has come up. And it reminds me of in basketball, especially in college basketball, when a star player picks up a few early fouls and the head coach overcompensates and ends up not playing the player the rest of the game. And it winds up that the player winds up with like 2 or 3 fouls for the game and only plays for 15 minutes when you're like, well, he could have played a little more than that. You could have sort of risked things a little more and pushed things a little more instead of just assuming that the guy was going to foul out. And I feel like with managers and their closers, and especially with Davey Martinez and his closers, he does that. He saves them for things that don't come up, and he's sort of too conservative in that regard. So I just thought that this was a game in which it made perfect sense to use Finnegan in that spot. Doesn't do it. Now, maybe Finnegan wouldn't have come through. Who knows? But Andrew Chafin sure as heck did not come through.
Well, let's talk about that last at bat with Chafin versus Verdugo. It's a lefty-lefty matchup. As you heard Bob Carpenter on the broadcast say, they'd face each other a bunch in the National League West, and Verdugo's 4 for 10 against him. Take that, whatever you think that matters or not. But here's the key thing to the whole at-bat. Chafin throws him 7 consecutive sliders to begin the at-bat. He's in control of the at-bat. Verdugo, at best, is fouling them off. And I think this is one of the great dilemmas in baseball in that individual pitcher versus hitter confrontation. When you are going to the well and throwing the same pitch over and over with 2 strikes and the guy's fouling it off, and you've got to decide, and the batter has to decide, okay, is he finally going to throw something different, or is he going to keep going with the same pitch over and over again? On the one hand, you say he's not squaring it up. He's late on it. He's fouling it off. He hasn't taken good swings. Keep sticking with it. He's not going to put it into play. Maybe one of these times he's either going to strike out or he's going to hit a weak ground ball or something like that. Or you say he's seen so many of these. Let's try to surprise him with something different, and maybe we can win the game because of that. Well, he does go with the fastball, and he put it up in the zone. It was right, like letter high, middle of the strike zone, complete different location from all the sliders that were down in the zone, and you got a hard ground ball up the middle to lose the game. So I don't know what the right answer is in a spot like that, but I always do find it fascinating when you throw the same pitch over and over, and it's clear that the guy isn't on it. Maybe you just stick with it, force him to beat you with your best pitch. That is Chafin's best pitch, the slider. Maybe one more of them is enough to get the job done.
Well, for this game, 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 2 1/3 innings. We had Jose A. Ferrer, bottom of the 7th. He faced 3 batters, got 2 outs. We had Jorge Lopez facing 1 batter and getting 1 out, which was a big out. Bottom of the 7th. Generated a swinging strikeout of Marcell Ozuna on 4 pitches with a runner on second, 2 outs, and the Nats down 3-1. And Jackson Rutledge, he officially allowed 1 run in 1 1/3 innings. He tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th, but he in the bottom of the 9th faced 2 batters and got 1 out and got charged with what proved to be the game-winning run. But it's funny, prior to Chafin giving up the walk-off single, the bullpen actually been pretty good in this game. Ferrer, Lopez, and Rutledge overall did a good job.
Yeah, no, they were all excellent. I mean, Lopez coming in to face Ozuna in a big spot, and he gets the strikeout. That was good on him. Rutledge, I know he takes the loss because he gives up the leadoff single that starts the whole rally, but this was another case of him in a sort of high leverage spot, and he's been pretty good at this, and I would like to continue to see more of him in those spots. And so I didn't necessarily have a problem with him starting the 9th inning because I thought he had a real quick 8th. He's pitched well. We know he has some length in him. He doesn't have to be a 1-inning guy. And he gave up a hard ground ball that went off Nasim Nunez's glove. That's the one thing. And then he fields a bunt, and there's that split second that you think maybe he goes to second, but it didn't seem like it was worth that risk. Get the out at first, and now all of a sudden winning runs in scoring position, and that's that. So I think he's done a good job overall, and I think he is worthy of more of these situations of consequence.
Rutledge and Cole Henry have both been good. Henry had 1 bad outing, 5 runs in 1 inning. Beyond that, he has been terrific too. Hey guys, Al Galdi for Window Nation, which has another terrific offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. Now until May 31st, get 60% off and a free entry door with a house of new Window Nation windows. Plus, pay nothing until 2027. Schedule your free estimate at 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Prepare for the summer heat with energy-efficient windows from Window Nation. Window Nation has some of the best energy-efficient windows out there. Window Nation offers a lifetime warranty on all windows, so you can save long into the future. Hurry. The sale ends on May 31st. Do not miss out on your chance to get 60% off and pay nothing until 2027. Schedule your free estimate right now. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Babbel. Did you know that the Nats are on the Spanish radio airwaves for the second consecutive season?
Joven. Batazo fuerte por la línea izquierda. La bola se va, se va. Se fue la fruta. Home run, Andrés Chaparro. Su primero de la temporada.
If you want to know what Luciano and Gustavo are saying on the broadcast on calls such as this one, then check out Babbel. And here's their special offer for Nats Chat listeners. 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/NatsChat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/NatsChat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/NatsChat. Babbel.com/NatsChat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
McCormick knows unbeatable flavor starts with the right spices. It's why we created Flavor Sealed. So anytime you peel back the seal of McCormick herbs and spices, you can be confident they will pack the same amount of flavor as the day they were packed. The kind of flavor that brings out the best of your favorite recipes and keeps everyone coming back for seconds, or maybe even thirds. McCormick, Flavor Sealed for unbeatable flavor.
Irvin to the belt. Checking the runners. Here's the pitch. Swinging a line drive. Base hit through the hole to left field. Rounding third, Riley up for the ball is Wood. Throw coming in. It is cut off by the third baseman. Tana would have been offline as Riley slides across the plate for the first run of the game. And the Braves on top here at the bottom of the third. Atlanta 1 and Washington nothing.
The Nats starting pitcher in this 4-3 walk-off loss at Atlanta on Monday night was Jake Irvin. He allowed 3 runs in 6 innings, gave up 7 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 5 singles. He issued 2 walks. He recorded just 1 strikeout. More on that momentarily. Irvin threw a lot of strikes, 83 pitches, 56 strikes, just 27 balls. He, in the bottom of the third, allowed 2 runs as he retired each of the first 2 Braves batters in the inning, but then issued a 2-out walk and then gave up 4 consecutive 2-out singles. And Irvin, in the bottom of the 5th, gave up a moonshot of a home run, a 2-out solo homer by Marcell Ozuna to left center field for a 3-1 Braves lead, 464 feet per StatCast. But here is what really stands out to me about Jake Irvin. So he now, over his last 3 starts, has 3 strikeouts in 17 and a third innings. And I know that he has never been like some sky-high strikeout pitcher, but a mere 3 strikeouts in 17 and a third innings over 3 starts is not good. And I know that diminished velocity has come up. Do you see the lack of strikeouts as a function of the diminished velocity? Do you think there is something else that might be going on with that?
Yeah, I've been trying to figure that out myself because his strikeout pitch is his curveball. That's his best pitch. And so you wouldn't think that a fastball that's down a couple miles an hour would impact the curveball's ability. But perhaps because he doesn't have as much faith in the fastball, he's throwing the curveball so much more. And now hitters are sitting on that or seeing it more to the extent that they, are getting a better look at it and not swinging and missing as much. So I'm not entirely sure what has led to that. It is that little bit of a red flag. I mean, overall, he's still pitching pretty well. The home runs have kind of been his biggest issue. That and like his first inning, although he got out of a first inning jam in this one. Really, in this game, it's 2 hits by Marcell Ozuna. That's pretty much everything against him. He had that one rough stretch in the third inning with Ozuna hitting the 2-run single, and then the home run, which was on a 2-0 fastball right over the plate to him and 92 miles an hour. That's diminished velocity there. That's against a guy like Marcell Ozuna. That's not going to get the job done. But he's finding a way. And for the most part, I think he's been pretty solid for them. I know he keeps talking about this being more mechanics than anything going on with his arm. I know they work on it. You'd like to think they can kind of figure that out and try to get a little bit back to where he's supposed to be from a strikeout rate. I would guess it's a combination of the diminished velocity, of relying on the curveball so much that teams are maybe just getting too good of a look at it, and he's not getting the same kind of swings and misses on that pitch that he normally does.
If you look at Jake Irvin's strikeouts per 9 innings over his 3 Major League regular seasons, 2023, 7.36, 2024, 7.48, 2025, 5.67. He's down nearly 2 strikeouts per 9 innings in terms of that strikeout rate. That's significant. Like, that's not nothing. So that's something clearly that needs to get fixed, because you keep, dancing this dance of not striking guys out, and that's how you start putting guys on base. And his stuff, I mean, you think about Irvin, again, I know he's not like a great strikeout pitcher, but his stuff is good enough to where, averaging like 7 or 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, he should be able to do that. And he's not close to that right now.
Right. And that third inning I was just talking about, you've got 5 straight batters reach, all with 2 outs. And that's a classic example of, if you can just put a hitter away with 2 strikes, you get out of that whole jam. And if you don't have that pitch in your arsenal right now, it helps keep those innings going. And there wasn't a ton of loud contact there, but there was contact. And once again, you're not getting swings and misses. You're now counting on either weak contact or contact hit right at your fielders. And in that one inning, it didn't happen. And that might have been the difference in the ballgame in the end.
Life as a small business owner, everything is your problem, and there aren't enough hours in the day. That's where LinkedIn Jobs, and by proxy Nats Chat, are here to help. For those crucial hires that you absolutely can't whiff on, turn to LinkedIn Jobs. Simply post your job, and LinkedIn will take it from there, making sure it gets in front of the properly qualified candidates who are searching themselves. Find out why more than 2.5 million small business owners have turned to LinkedIn Jobs to grow their staff. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/natschat. That's linkedin.com/natschat to post your jobs for free. linkedin.com/natschat. Terms and conditions apply.
Amazing deals for every day of summer are at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and they're up to 60% off.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
I always find something amazing.
Because the best deals go fast.
Save big on Marc Jacobs, Madewell, Steve Madden, and more. Plus, buy it online and pick it up in store the same day for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Now the pitch, swing and a belt to left center field. This is deep. Verdugo going back, way back, looking up, going, and it's gone. Goodbye. About 10 feet to the right of the 375 marker, and the visitors' bullpen. Bang! Zoom goes James Wood with yet another opposite field home run. It is his 11th home run of the year and RBI number 24, and he cuts the Atlanta lead in half. It's now the Braves 2 and the Nationals 1.
So the Nats offense in this 4-3 walk-off loss at the Braves on Monday night. Again, the offense was not good. The Nats off scoring just 3 runs in 3 games and getting swept by the St. Louis Cardinals at Nationals Park over the weekend. Scored just 3 runs in this game on Monday night. The Nats totaled 7 hits and just 2 walks, went 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The 7 hits were a home run, 2 doubles, and 4 singles. Like we said, the Nats did rally in this game, scored 2 runs in the top of the 9th, but a big part of that was an error by the Braves shortstop Nick Allen, a 2-out, 2-run throwing error in the top of the 9th on a grounder off the bat of Dylan Cruz. So we did have a big home run from James Wood. That was good. He is the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Wood in a Nats 1-run 4th had a 1-out opposite field solo homer to left field to cut the Nats deficit to 2-1. 413 feet per StatCast. Luis Garcia Jr. and K-Bit Ruiz each had 2 hits. Garcia as the Nats starting second baseman and number 5 batter, 2 for 4 with a double and a single. Ruiz as the Nats starting catcher and number 4 batter, 2 for 4 with 2 singles. But, we highlight these positives. The bottom line is the offense was not nearly good enough in this game. And once again, the Nats made an opposing starting pitcher who really had not done much this season look great. Grant Holmes was the Atlanta starting pitcher. 1 run in 6 1/3 innings.
Yeah, this is the theme. This is what's been going on all week. And that's why I said they didn't lose this game because of the pitching staff. They lost this game because they did nothing at the plate really until the 9th inning, aside from James Wood's 4th inning homer. And against a guy like Holmes, I lost track of them, but there were a good number of at-bats against him where the hitter is up 2-0 in the count. You've got him where you want him. And then what happened? They swung at a pitch out of the zone, usually a breaking ball, and either got themselves out of a good count or hit into an out or ultimately struck out at the end of the at-bat. And it was really telling to me that how often they would get ahead in the count, counts that you typically, historically you'd say, okay, this is a good fastball count. This is a good spot to hit in. And they weren't getting any fastballs. It was slider. It was changeup. It was breaking ball at 2-0, 3-1. And that's scouting. That is the opposing team knowing how much the Nats are swing happy, and especially at stuff down and out of the zone. You saw it from Ruiz. You saw it from Garcia. You saw it from Abrams. You saw it from a bunch of guys in this game. You even saw it from James Wood at one point, I think later in the game, where he started chasing a good pitch out of the zone. This is a problem. They only drew one walk against Holmes. They only had 2 for the whole game. This continues to be an issue. Yeah, you want to hit the ball hard, hit the ball in the air, and try to score runs in bunches. That's great. But you can't count on that happening. You have to be able to work the count. You got to be able to make a starting pitcher work and ultimately draw some walks. That has to be part of your offensive game. And the irony is they finally did it in the 9th. They took some good at-bats against Iglesias. They actually were patient, got to 2-2, 3-2, that kind of stuff. Why did it take so long? I don't know, because Iglesias should be a much tougher at-bat than Grant Holmes is.
Not a single one of the Nats' top 6 batters in the lineup on Monday night drew a walk. It's funny, the Nats early in the season were drawing walks, and we talked about that, but the walks really have dried up. And you can tell this is a real source of frustration for Davey Martinez. He is like begging and pleading now with these guys to draw walks. He said it point blank, our pitching staff is issuing too much walks, and our batters are not drawing enough walks.
2 things need to happen. We need to stop walking guys and hitting guys, and we need to accept our walks. It's the bottom line. We need to accept our walks and stop chasing.
Not that this stat exists, but if it did, like walk differential, like walks allowed versus walks generated, the Nats would have to be near the bottom of MLB. And the other thing with the Nats walks this season is the walks basically have come from 3 guys, James Wood, Nathaniel Lowe, and Alex Cole. Once you get beyond those 3 guys, man, there is a real lack of players who have generated walks with any kind of regularity.
Right, and it is a big problem. And you can say, hey, they're not drawing their walks, and sometimes you can't force it if a pitcher is in the strike zone. And sometimes they are. But in this case, it was clear they were not. And as I said, I think what was so striking to me is that teams know this. They know how much they chase, especially down and in left-handed hitters with these breaking balls, where you could see it's like it's a 2-0 count, and they start swinging like as the ball's coming out of the pitcher's hand, and it's a pitch that ends up being nowhere near the zone. You get into that spot, you have to keyhole a specific spot over the plate that you know you're good at, and specifically look for a fastball. And if you don't see that immediately, let it go. If it ends up being a called strike, so what? It's 2-1. You still have count leverage above the pitcher. So be willing to work it. And this is how you knock a starting pitcher out of a game early and try to get to their middle relievers, traditionally the least effective pitchers on a staff. And instead, how often are we talking about opposing pitchers getting to the 6th inning, the 7th inning with really low pitch counts? You're playing right into their hands when they do that. And so this, to me, has been the most striking thing over the last week, especially, but really a recurring pattern that we've seen for a long time around here, that they are not willing to be patient enough to work the count. Yeah, you get a fastball over the plate, sure, swing at it. But that's not what they're doing. And even when they get ahead in the count, that's not what they're doing. They're swinging at garbage down below the zone and paying the price for it.
So the Braves started this regular season 0-7, now are at 20-21. So 20-14 since the 0-7 start. Meantime, the Nats, with that losing streak now at 6 games, that is the longest current losing streak in MLB. The Nats are the coldest team in the majors. We talked about, the Nats being desperate for a win. to me, this is, you got to get at least 2 games in this series to try to feel semi-good about yourselves. That's going to be harder now off the Nats losing game 1 of this series. And, this obviously was not a blowout loss. The Nats were in this game. The pitching in a lot of ways kept them in this game. But it does continue to feel like if there's a way to find a loss, the Nats do that. They've had a penchant for that for so much of this season, and we saw that in a lot of ways on Monday night.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There was a stretch of about a week to 10 days, maybe late April, where it felt like they were finding ways to win games late, and those close games were actually going their way. And now it's the opposite. And I think one of the keys to it all, as we keep talking about, is they're playing from behind every night. When you give up a run or two early and you aren't scoring or doing much offensively until late in the game, you're doing the chasing now, and that's a tough spot to be in. And you're trying to force the issue. You're trying to make things happen. Good on them for rallying, yes, in the 9th. I mean, let's give some credit to that. They did finally have some good quality at bats, singles by Ruiz and Garcia. The Dylan Cruz, it's an E6, and I think it's the right call, but I want to give him credit. First of all, he worked it to a 3-2 count. Second of all, he busted it down the line, and I think he made Nick Green double clutch almost out of shock, like, oh man, I got to rush this throw now, and ends up getting on and tying the game because of that. So it's an error, but I think that's a case of Cruz sort of forcing the air with his hustle, and we've seen this consistently from him, no matter how bad the offense looks at times. The guy plays the game hard and he runs the bases well. So I want to give him credit for that. But you can't keep waiting until the 7th, 8th, 9th innings to do this stuff. You got to take a lead. I think it's now 13 of their last 16 games that the opponent has scored the first run. That's a tough way to live. They've got to find a way to get out in front and take more control of the ball game.
Was glad to see Cruz do what he did in that 9th, because what happened with him in the top of the 7th was brutal. Cruz with Luis Garcia Jr. on second, 2 outs, and the Nats down 3-1, struck out swinging on 3 pitches. That was painful. Cruz in this game as an Nats starting right fielder and number 7 batter, 0 for 3 with a walk and a stolen base. So game 2 for the Nats at the Braves Tuesday night at 7:15. The former Brave Michael Soroka will be the Nats starting pitcher. We're still trying to learn about Soroka and what kind of a season he'll have. He and his return start from the 15-day injured list pitched better than that final line indicated. So hopefully he gives the Nats another good outing here. We'll see.
He looked really good until that final inning. Can he build off of that? I'm sure there's going to be emotions for him going back to pitch in Atlanta for the team where he got his start and went through all the highs and the lows with them of a great rookie season, and then the freak Achilles injury, and then rupturing it again during his rehab. Never got to become the pitcher that they thought he was going to be for them. It's a big start for him personally, and it's a big start for this team. But above all else, let's talk offense. When you're doing the show tomorrow, do they play this game out in front? Do they get something going early on offensively? Or is it the same old story where they have to rely on some kind of late rally to get going? I just don't see how you can sustain that and have success.
And do they again make the opposing starting pitcher look like a Cy Young candidate? Because lately that's what you've been seeing. It happened in all 3 games against the Cardinals and happened in this loss at the Braves on Monday night. We invite you to check out our website, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat podcast.
Pick number 7 will be made by the New Orleans Pelicans. Picking 6th, the Washington Wizards.
Amazing deals for every day of summer are at Nordstrom Rack stores now, and they're up to 60% off.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
I always find something amazing.
Because the best deals go fast.
Save big on Marc Jacobs, Madewell, Steve Madden, and more. Plus, buy it online and pick it up in store the same day for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.